Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. House rules, Lance. No coughing.
No more coughing, Bob.
How you feeling? Feeling good?
Given how I'm doing today, Bob, compared to last week, probably coughed 3 times this morning, which is an improvement because I used to cough 3 times every 3 seconds.
I know. Well, good. Glad to see you back in the saddle. Hey, a ton of news. Thank you all for joining us. Let's get to it. Number one, you can accept scanned copies of all SBA 7A and 504 forms and loan docs in order to fund a loan. Katie?
Yeah, they're correct, though there is a big there's a thing that you do have to note here, and that is that you're going to need to get the physical copies eventually within that 6-month period. So they can accept scanned copies, but you're going to need to get the originals eventually.
Yep.
And you can use DocuSign. I don't know why you wouldn't use DocuSign, Lance.
Yeah, if you use DocuSign, you don't have the problem of having to collect originals later.
And what is, do you know, I don't even know what the fee is. I assume the fee to DocuSign is reasonable.
I think most institutions probably have DocuSign or something similar.
Yeah. I mean, I've signed as a borrower. I've signed some stuff, DocuSign. Painless. Number two, what percentage of your PPP borrowers do you expect will become your bank customers? What we specifically want to know is, okay, you have a one-off relationship with someone on a PPP, and are they bringing additional deposits, additional lending opportunities, additional product to your institution?
Well, I think a lot of institutions are going to be pretty high here. A lot of financial institutions, you had to be a customer to get a PPP loan there.
There you go. But you can see a good, 2/3 over 20%. So that's good. 20, I would say over 50% over a third, just to round it off. So that's good. I was talking to one banker and they were saying, hey, our deposits are going through the roof. We certainly didn't expect that. It makes our financial statement look very, very good. We have these deposits, but we don't have these corresponding liabilities, Lance, or assets.
I think it did result in a lot of financial institutions having asset growth and customers that, let's say your institution was not requiring that you be an existing customer to get a PPP loan. Many of those customers are going to appreciate the fact that you helped them out in a time of need and will continue to do business with your institution.
We are releasing today our compensation plan. We have finalized the numbers. Katie's done a lot of work on it. Now she's making it all nice and pretty. And one of the holes that we have is your compensation plan in 2021 for your business development officers? Are they being paid a commission on PPP loans? Lance, what do you think the answer is going to be?
That's about where I thought it would be.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, I think that's right on. 2/3 no, 1 in 10 say yes. So that's probably no different than a loan broker making a referral, but there's not a lot of margins on these PPP loans. But that's interesting. 1 in 10 have done that. And I think that's probably more, are they paying the broker or the BDO, Lance?
Well, I think you probably did see some compensation, maybe bonuses after people.
I know there was a lot of that, right?
A lot of bonusing taking place, but not, per se a commission based on the PPP loan.
And the generic, do you believe SBA lending professionals receive a higher compensation than non-SBA lenders doing the same job function, i.e. underwriters, closers, servicers, liquidators, Lance? Is there a bump because of the SBA expertise?
Yeah, if you have the SBA knowledge and experience, I think that your compensation levels will be higher than a comparable non-SBA lending department employee.
I'm surprised by the nose that high. That's not what our numbers show. Our numbers show that there's a little bit of bump. What's the range? I don't know, 5-10%, but it is that expertise is rewarded in the
Yes.
marketplace. So
Well, and it's a hot commodity right now, Bob. If you're working in the SBA world and you're not getting phone calls, there is a lot of activity, people trying to beef up their SBA staff right now. So there's a lot of demand for the SBA specialty.
Lance, put on your Karnak hat, the old Johnny Carson reference. PPP was the story for the last 12 months. Servicing, your first love, is going to take that over, right?
I think there's going to be a lot of servicing activity, not just with the leftover PPP loans, but now that the 11-12 payments have pretty much run their course or just about completely run their course. Yeah. We're going to find out how many of those borrowers may have been struggling in the 11-12 payments were what was keeping their head above water. So servicing liquidation is going to become very, very important for the rest of this year and especially in 2022.
Of course, that's a plug for Lance's webinar on May 12th. So we got that. Katie, what's going on?
Yeah, so we got this today. I actually think it came out late last night, but it's an extension of previous guidance on acceptable signatures. And we kind of already touched on this in our question, but basically it's allowing SBA lenders to accept scanned copies of 7A and 504 forms and other loan documents until July 31st, 2021. And like I said before, those scanned copies need to be accompanied by a driver's license, both back and front. You need a copy of that, as well as you're going to need to get valid original signatures within 6 months.
Very good. Scary. I just perused it this morning, scary article on our friend Brock Blake, who's I believe he's out of Utah. I still think he's with a non-bank lender up there, and he's saying the latest fraud is the fraudsters are doing AI. So Lance, when you interview me, I can now get a passport, and I change my face and I forge the passport and I put it up and said, yeah, see, this is me, Lance.
Yeah, the bad guys can figure out ways
of us,
to take advantage of this world that we live in. And the same thing happened with PPP. So most of the fraud occurred because in a lot of circumstances, the PPP lender may not even have seen the customer. It was all done electronically. So, people are getting more and more creative.
But as I said, there's certain things you can do. For example, Lance, if you ask me, hey, Bob, give me your bank statement from August 2013. Lance, hold on for 2 seconds while I download it. We're a fraudster. They're not going to go back that far. So there's certain things you can do if you have that raise red flags, that just ask off-the-wall questions. And, of course, then do the background checks. And
well, Bob, when I was processing PPP loans, if I got a borrower that was not in my marketplace, I'd Google.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd do Google. I'd look on LinkedIn. I would Google Map to make sure they existed, to see if I could see a picture of the property. But I do a few things to verify the existence.
And everyone's on LinkedIn, even if it's just in their picture. But if they're not on LinkedIn, I think that, check Yelp. But I agree with you. And I apologize for repeating the story, but it bears repeating. About a year ago, I got a call from a borrower who'd been ripped off to the tune of $30,000 to a loan broker and said, hey, do you know this guy? Is there anything I can do? And I obviously didn't have a lot of positive information. But while we're talking, Lance and Katie, I'm Googling him, and there it is, third line on this loan broker. He had served time on telephone card fraud in New England. Now he's in Florida. So if the guy had Googled it, it would have saved him 30 grand.
Yeah, I think that the electronic or the information that's available out there not only can benefit those that are trying to commit fraud, but it can benefit those financial institutions in avoiding it just by taking a few simple steps.
Yeah, and it also verifies the good SBA citizens out there.
That's
Hey,
right.
Katie, yesterday we talked about Rhode Island and PPP tax breaks, and I said, how's that affect California? Well, tell us about it.
Yeah, so California on Monday, their legislature passed a tax break that would allow businesses that had a loss of 25% or more during at least one 3-month period during 2020 to deduct their PPP forgiveness proceeds from their taxes. And that is pretty significant because currently they allow it to an extent, but they don't allow full deduction, so they're not considered one of the states that fully allows it. This still wouldn't mean that everyone would get that. Of course, there are some businesses that probably did perfectly fine during the pandemic that are probably still going to have to pay some taxes on this, but it does mean that it's going to be about $6.8 billion that instead of going back to the government, that's going to stay in small business pockets that they can continue paying their employees and things like that. So it is definitely a step in the right direction.
You know, I'm just going to make a rhetorical statement. Lance, Katie, you don't need to jump in, but come on. They're voting to give up taxes. That's, come on. You know, that's, yeah, $6.8 billion. That's the state of California. That's our money. Anyway.
Yeah, that's how a lot of states are viewing it. And
look at that smile like a Chester cat. All right, I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah, that is how a lot of states are viewing it, though. Because at least normally, when you have a situation like this, the state would have been making money. They would see it as income, and they would be making money off of that. So it does appear to them probably like a loss, but it is, like I said, going instead to small businesses that need to pay their employees and things like that. So this right here is a map of states that currently are allowing forgiveness of PPP loans to not be taxed, and that's going to be the vast majority of states. That's called a rolling conformity state in tax terms,
wow.
which means that they're already going to adopt the federal tax code. And because on a federal level, they wanted PPP to not be taxed, those states are going to already adopt that. They can vote to adjust that a little bit, like we're seeing in Rhode Island. They're trying to pass a bill right now that would allow them to tax PPP over, I believe, $150,000 if the business received that much.
Well, I say the taxes are going to reach for this, which first of all, there's a lot of debate whether they can do that, but please don't nail the small business operator also a failure to file the appropriate amount of state tax as well and ding them for that, because I know that's, if it was disclosed up front, say, hey, Rhode Island, California, you have to pay for this, fine. You know, plug it in the quarterly. But if they go back and say, oh, you didn't make the payments, now you're in a lot of trouble, that doesn't make sense. Shuttered operator grants, we keep talking about this. What I wanted to know was, yesterday we solved the issue of what the restaurant grant is, and I asked the question, Katie, I'm not really too keen on how much the shuttered venue operators are going to get. How much are they getting? Yeah,
so the difference here is that the shuttered venue operators grant is going to be generally 45% of their 2019 gross earned revenue, or $10 million, whichever is less. The restaurant revitalization program, you might be thinking that $10 million sounds familiar. That is the max for that as well, but it is only $5 million per location for that situation. So there is a little bit of a different thing there. Also, that one's going to have a different calculation rather than percentage. They're going to use a little bit different of a calculation.
And definition of a shuttered venue right up on top there. Well, we have to have seats bolted to the floor. Is that basically?
Yeah, in some situations, it kind of depends. These are their general definition that the SBA is giving. But some of those exact locations, like, for example, a motion picture theater, that's going to be one where you want permanent seats. You couldn't just pop up a bunch of seats and call that a theater. So they want something a little more permanent than that. Same thing with museum operators. There's going to be a very specific criteria for that one as well. They have to have some kind of staging area where they present some kind of film or play or something regularly. So they do have some very specific things within these categories, but generally these are the businesses that will be eligible.
So I see performing arts there, Lance. I'm assuming that this is open for nonprofits.
My guess is absolutely, because most of these categories will be populated mostly by nonprofits.
Well, very good. Let's see. There we go. Katie put together this chart. I like it. Real briefly, Katie, what does this tell us?
Yeah, so I can't take all the credit for this one. The SBA did do most of the work on this. It is available on the SBA website, but I did make it a little bit bigger so everybody can see what it's saying. Basically, it goes through and it looks at whether, for example, a PPP applicant and a PPP recipient could receive both of those. The answer in this case would be yes, because they could get a second draw. But there are some things to note here. For example, Restaurant Revitalization Fund and the Shuttered Venue Grant. You can't get both. You can get one or the other. So that is something to be aware of. Also, for PPP and Shuttered Venue Grant, you may not apply for a PPP loan after receiving a Shuttered Venue Grant. You can do it the other way around. They can have a PPP loan and then get a Shuttered Venue Grant, but that PPP loan will be deducted from the amount that's eventually provided. So there are some things to be aware of, and in this case, that would be something that the lender probably needs to know, so they know not to have the borrower go out and get a Shuttered Venue Grant first, because that would mess up the process a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why we're. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's why we're spending time in this. We understand these are grants; they're not loans, but you are talking to these people. They're your customers. They're worried, and so you are the person they're going to. I'm sure there's a lot of conversation with CPAs and attorneys as well, say, "Hey, this is our understanding of what's happening." Very good. Carrie asked the question, and it's great question, Carrie. How long is PPP going to last? And she also says we're struggling to understand the true remaining funds when we don't understand how the hold codes may affect the balance. Katie, have the hold codes already come off that PPP balance, or are they in limbo?
That is a great question. I don't think the SBA has answered that question when they're releasing that data. So she might be right. There might be a lot less available than we think. Currently, from what I can tell, at least just doing the basic math of how much has been appropriated for the program, it looks like we have about $42.8 billion left as of last Sunday. And it seems like we're averaging about $10 billion per week, maybe a little less last week, but it's probably going to last us then maybe another 3.5 weeks or so.
All right. Well, Katie, that's your homework. Let's do the numbers tomorrow, and let's pin down the hold codes, what the outstanding is, and what's out there. So, Carrie, thank you for that. We're going to close with a great video from CDC Small Business Finance. Our friends down there put this together. We're going to play 90 seconds. And it's a great testimony. If you have issues, what we've decided to do is simply contact Mike at colemanreport.com, and obviously he'll send you a link. But let's go ahead and listen to the video.
Hi, my name is Rodney Atik, and I'm the owner with my mom, Rosario Sotelo, El Borrego restaurant. It's in City Heights. We have been in business for 13 years already. Our food is authentic food, Mexican food from the south of Mexico. We are from Acapulco, Guerrero. My mom had the vision to have lamb tacos in San Diego, and that's what she decided to open a little spot in San Diego that sells lamb. We started in a little driveway. Suddenly 3 months later, the people was asking for pounds of lamb, and we were consuming 600 pounds a week, and we were only there for Saturdays and Sundays. That's when we decided to open a bigger space, and the people start saying, hey, you know what? I told my compadre, I told my friend to come to El Borrego. And we were asking, who's El Borrego? You are El Borrego. You are the lamb. You sell lamb, so you are El Borrego. So the people named the restaurant, and it was a no-brainer to open a space with that name. Of course, I will work with CDC again, because the people that work with CDCs, they are very professional, and they make our journey in order to get to a loan easier. I cannot think about going to a bank or another. We feel so comfortable, and we know everybody, and they have come to the restaurant, so we feel very comfortable, like a friend, and to tell a little bit of our lives or what we need, and they will support us and give us the help that we are asking for.
Well, I'm hungry. Lance, we need to unmute Katie and Lance very quickly.
Yeah,
if you have a video that you'd love for us to play, we're going to try to do them in 90-second slots. If you have issues with it, that's why you played it at the end. Work them out with Michael. Just send it Mike at colemanreport.com, and he'll walk you through it, and we'll definitely send you a link. Katie and Lance, I'm going to be playing hooky for a couple days, so
Good for
Katie,
you, Bob.
You have the con. Joseph has the con. Lance has the con. I think we even conned Chris Hearn to take the con for a couple days. Anyway, everyone, thank you for joining us for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.